Hey guys, it's Miki ASMR here, and I'm going to be reading another Tsukishima Kei X listener, because y'all know how much I love doing these ones. This is going to be a Tsukishima X female listener, and you are Kageyama's sister. You are Kageyama's sister. And this one is titled Difficult, and that's pretty much it. Let's get right on to the video. Kageyama Tobio, also known as the king of the court, and your brother. You quietly open the door to be greeted by the sight of a ball rapidly flying sideways, as Hinata had failed to receive it. You noticed that despite all the practice and his improvements, receives were still a part of his weaknesses. Bend your legs more, your brother barked. Judging from his tone and the extremely pronounced scowl on his face, you deduced that they had been at this for a while. However, you doubted that at this particular practice they had worked on the skill for hours, the amount of time you had spent while waiting for your brother. The unfamiliar sound of your luggage wheels hitting the wooden floor echoed in the gym, gaining everyone's attention. Everyone was shocked to see, as you were supposed to be far away, but yet here you were, strolling to the benches and taking a seat in the middle of practice, as if it was a normal thing to do. You nodded at Yukai, the Takare-sensei, along with Yachi and Kyoko. I'm waiting for Tobio to finish practice, you explained to their wide eyes and slack jaws. What happened? I thought you were flying back today, Yachi exclaimed as she went to your side. I did. Tobio was supposed to pick me up, you confirmed, pausing before adding, but you know where he's been. Your tone held no form of malice or irritation. Nevertheless, if one looked close enough, they would see that your lips were pressed tightly together, tighter than usual. The setter's acute sharpness displayed on the court was rarely seen outside of it, but you were the exception to this. Though many people complained that your natural expression was difficult to read, your emotions were blatant to your brother. This was due to the amalgamation of things currently paying off, as Tobio had noticed your annoyance and fatigue despite your emotionless face. I'm sorry, YN, he stated sincerely. The setter had a vague memory of your mother, reminding him of your return, but his mind was volleyball driven in the upcoming tournaments, and skills needed to be perfected occupied his mind. It's fine, I expected this, you said calmly, as your words spoke for themselves. They bit into your brother, but they rung with the truth, so he had no words to defend himself. You gave him a single nod, and he went back to practice. The stupid king forgot his princess, Tsukishima remarked, the blonde aware of the onyx-haired setters. Idiocy? I don't know what that says. Yet, this took the cake. This irked the middle blocker and caused venomous statements to linger on his tongue, to be released at a moment's notice. Said sentences were voiced throughout practice, and the heat of the flames surrounding the two were noticed by everyone. Practice couldn't end soon enough, though, and it seemed miraculous that your brother hadn't exploded like a volcano, though there was occasional flares. The first-year setter held back the guttural growl as he headed towards you, still leering at Tsukishima. Let's go, you stated, and he responded with a grunt. On the way home, a thick air hung between you two, but at least Tobio was carrying your baggage. Your brother struggled to fabricate the proper words to say to you, and finally decided upon them once you had arrived back at home. I'll make it up to you, Tobio promised, as he met your sternly gaze with his determined one. Just stay on the court, that's enough. Your eyes softened, as his blueberry orbs gleamed with understanding and relief. Despite this incident, you couldn't maintain your irritation. Something in your sentence conveyed it. Seeing your brother grow into a proud setter he is today, you knew how much sport meant to him, and now that he was at Karasuno, the team which was best for him, proven by how the middle school scars of his began to fade. All in all, you were content for him and wanted him to continue at his second home, the court. Tired from the travel, you went from one motion to the other automatically in order to lie in bed as soon as possible. As soon as you could, you fell into your bed and succumbed to your fatigue. Your slumber was ensured by your exhaustion. The next day, you had entered the class to see Tsukishima saying an overly blunt statement to a fellow classmate, a usual occurrence. Given their nature, the student reacted in anger and left in a huff. You had discovered firsthand that that middle blocker, didn't get along very well, and that you had both short tempers and got fired up too easily, resulting in his slew of insults and actions that would convey his disdain. People who have issues socializing weren't novelty to you. Your brother was the dictating king, Kageyama Tobio. His smile sent shivers down people's spine, and that's if he's even deciding to smile. Compliments did not easily fall from his lips, or a scowl that could be consistently found on the setter's visage. His personality provided many difficulties. His middle school volleyball team could attest to that fact. Even though it had improved since he joined Karasuno, the boy was still awkward. However, being a sister, you had accepted this and had grown accustomed to it. His quirks became normal. His awkwardness wasn't very difficult to overcome. He wasn't the easiest to socialize with, but he was hardly the most difficult either. Similar to the student who had constantly worn headphones that you were acquainted with. You were surprised when Tobio started hanging around with Hinata, an energetic ball of sunshine, but discovered that their love for volleyball is what glued them as friends. They had traits which starkly contrasted, yet their friendship worked. This reminded you of that duo from your college preparation class, Yamaguchi Tadashi and Tsukishima Kei. Yamaguchi had his insecurities, whereas Tsukishima was bold and confident enough to criticize others. Nevertheless, they were friends. Some argued that Yamaguchi was Tsukishima's only friend, besides you. Many were able to withstand the blonde's sharp tongue, but logically you analyzed and took his words into account. Your brother didn't explain his emotions clearly most of the time, so you had grown accustomed to not taking every word as an insult, and looking for the true meaning behind them. The day you met Tsukishima was still easy to recall. Being first years, it was only a matter of time before partner work was assigned, even if it was a college preparatory class. Tsukishima Kei and Kageyama YN. The teacher listed. Your head shifted to look at your partner who had cooked his teeth. Your eyes met his narrow liquid pools of gold and saw the contortions in his facial features. You weren't pleased with the match either. This did not surprise you, as you were aware of his relationship with your brother. An awkward silence ensued as he moved to his desk. Tsukishima glared at you, which you returned with a poker face. The air felt uncomfortably heavy and that made you nervous. The condensing expression never left his visage as he analyzed you. Do you have issues being my partner? You inquired, no longer wishing to avoid the subject. The partnership would only last the duration of the class, but he still seemed peeved. I don't want to spend time with you. You're probably just like the king, the blonde said, disgust evident in his voice. You paused for a second as your lips twitched, but you remained in a neutral position. Why? You asked. What? The blonde questioned. What makes you think I'm exactly like my sibling? You clarified. Both of you have an unfriendly face. Tsukishima pointed out. Is that all? You said in an even tone, seemingly unaffected by his comment. You're both ugly. Oop. He added, disliking your lack of a reaction. You hadn't broken the eye contact, showing that you heard his insult, but didn't dignify it with a response. We have differences. You counted quickly. More feelings swirled within you, yet your mouth refused to convey them, so that short sentence would have to do. Tch, scoffed the blonde, unlike your brother. Tsukishima's words weren't enough to rile you. Much to his surprise, you didn't seem to contain an ounce of Tobio's short fuse, but the middle blocker was definitely going to confirm if this was true or not. As the assignment went on, another undeniable difference between you and Tobio had popped up, the level of intellect. You had no issues following along with Tsukishima's pace while contributing a fair amount to the work and being completely unfazed with the complex vocabulary. If he had ever questioned your ideas, you were able to defend them with logic and reason, or civilly concede and drop them, without ignoring his rude remarks. The work was eventually finished, but the blonde wasn't done with you. The two of you continuously talked, sometimes about mutual interests, class, and other things. Despite the common topics, your conversations were filled with cruel comments, riling statements, and snide remarks from Tsukishima, but they were always met with your cold response. Not a single sentence had managed to actually upset you, no matter how hard the middle blocker tried. Once you had found out the poisonous words were simply to elicit a reaction from asking Yamaguchi, learning more about Tsukishima, and rationalizing his actions, they had even less of an effect. The blonde was dumbfounded for once. Tobio immediately reacted to his comments, whether they were betraying acceptance or spewing with rage, whereas Tsukishima had difficulty causing any major differences in your facial features or any significant emotions leaking into your tone. He had received occasional slight raise of your eyebrow, pausing while you process a statement, or subtle sighs, but nothing really adherent, borderline, belligerent at times, responses that he got from your siblings. Eventually, you talked with each other. Tsukishima's sole purpose was no longer to see your continuance filled with emotions, and acceptance and liking for one another had formed along with the friendship. To the bewilderment of many, time had passed and no one had suspected that there was a possibility that your relationship could morph into anything else, but your silent and blossoming attraction proved them wrong. Tobio noted that your more pleasant attitude didn't comment on it. Why would you fall for Tsukishima? Everyone knew Tobio had a great game sense and a mind constantly thinking about the game. Yet Tsukishima shared the same trait. Even if it wasn't praised as much. His ember orbs caught the movements of the court, and his skills were displayed by the numerous successful blocks. This was one of the more things that you had added to your reasons for liking him. However, you weren't immune to his toxic tongue. Staple pieces of paper returned to the students a recent test. You tensed as each one of them was placed onto a desk. It was as if you were waiting for the court to decide its verdict. You stared at the diminishing pile of paper as the teacher was coming closer to you. Winces, sighs of relief, bitter smiles, and sincere grins. All of them were told about how the students felt, but you were worried that your expression would fit once you saw your mark. Most of the time, you were confident with your skills, not because you were a genius, but because you put genuine work into them. However, this subject had caused you to struggle like no other. The meaning behind the lesson became garbled in your head. You reviewed the material constantly, but you couldn't help but feel that you were behind everyone. During the test, some of the questions had definitely stumped you, and there was some answers that you weren't confident in. Once the papers held some of the knowledge, you were dropped onto your desk. Your heart rate skyrocketed, especially once you saw the blur of red. Gingerly, you flipped through the test, looking at the mark. Your shoulders slumped as your teeth clenched as you tried to contain your disappointment. You poured all of that time and effort, yet the result was in a mark you'd like to hide. Glaring rose red ink at your marked test. Even though they technically pointed out how to improve, they practically taunted you with the display of all your errors. You became absorbed by negative thoughts, and forlorn wrapped around your circulatory organ. The people around you began to fade, and even the ringing bell became nothing but background noise. Awareness of your surroundings had disappeared as you were overwhelmed with the results. When the test was snatched away, your head immediately went to see who it was, ripping the paper out of his hands, but it was already too late. Looks like somebody doesn't belong in this class. Because I failed the test, Tsukishima remarked snidely. Your eyes widened. The words of which fell so easily and effortlessly from his tongue, pierced through you. His comment was met with silence as you struggled to gather words necessary to express yourself. Rather than acknowledging his insult, you ran away. Devastation swirling in your eyes as you curled your fists that trembled slightly, informing that the middle blocker had accomplished what he was set out to do, visibly upsetting you, the Ice Princess. Instead of feeling victorious, a pang of guilt shot through his body. Nevertheless, he left you alone to wherever you darted off. Tears welled up in your eyes, but you were forced to hold them back until you reached the bathroom. It felt so pointless to cry over a test. Nevertheless, Tsukishima's jab had hurt you. You continuously wiped the droplets of salty water off of your face, yet they would quickly be replaced with new ones. You attempted taking breaths in order to calm yourself. Tsukishima-kun always insults people, you reasoned. This isn't anything new. He does that to everyone, you added. I'll do better next time, you said, trying to convince yourself, but the crack in your voice broke through your facade. You had studied so hard for it, but when it came back with the numerous scarlet correction marks, of course, you couldn't master the subject in one go, and you would learn it for next time, but the agony was still coursed in your veins. His sentence had doused your wounds with salt. It wasn't just his words, but the way they came from the blonde, someone who you respected and began to grow feelings for. Your brain raced with thoughts, but slowly things began sorting themselves in your mind. Knowing that no one was going to console you, along with the fact that you were crying, would not help you solve your problems. You began implementing different calming techniques, counting to 10, taking deep breaths, closing your eyes. You did whatever you could to quell your temptatious feelings. Your sniffling ceased, and tears no longer flowed. However, your face, especially your eyes, showed clear signs that Tsukishima's comment hurt deeply. You began splashing water into your eyes to reduce the redness while the others entered the bathroom. No one said anything, but they paused as they watched your odd actions. Their stares were unnerving, so you quickly darted into the stall and closed your eyes. Once they had left, you began splashing water into your eyes again. This process repeated multiple times until you only looked slightly fatigued rather than someone who had been crying over a close friend's insult. Your confidence may have been tattered, but no one needed to know that. Even though Tsukishima's words were like vultures that ate your self-esteem, their injured victim, nobody needed to see that. Your failure was suffocating, yet on the surface you seemed to be breathing fine. You'd get better. For now, you just had to survive the day. You went home the minute the bell rang, allowing you to finish for the day in a robot manner. You kept your emotions locked up inside as they numbed and froze over. You knew you had to review the material at some point, but today you just couldn't find the strength to do so. Your resolve would return later, but for the remaining hours, you decided to wallow in your failure. You lay your head on your bed after dinner, lacking any real motivation to do anything. Your bleak stare was met by a bland ceiling as your thoughts swam through your head. Tobio barged into your room, and you immediately sat up. You okay? He questioned bluntly. You blinked a couple of times and then nodded your head in confirmation. His trademark scowl started to form, since he didn't believe you. Nevertheless, your brother wasn't going to push you, as he noticed your eyes had become red, and they weren't in the morning. Thank you, though, he said quietly. The setter was about to turn around and leave when you impulsively hugged him. Your arms latched around his torso as you buried your face in his chest. Your brother stiffened at the unusual contact, but his cerulean orbs taking the shape of teacup saucers. He froze for a couple of moments before awkwardly placing his arms around your clumsy form in an attempt to return the hug. You stayed like that for a while, needing to destroy the pathetic loneliness that surrounded you. You inhaled your brother's familiar scent while gripping onto his clothes tightly. Your brother's presence and touch helped you keep you grounded. His steadily beating heartbeat aided to your calm, an erratic one. His steadily beating heartbeat aided your calm, erratic one that was consumed by disappointment. Once you truly felt calm, you wordlessly let go and met your brother's gaze to reassure him that you were fine now. He left to his own room, and you collapsed on your bed, soon caving into fatigue. The next day, you went to school, yesterday's odd anomaly forgotten as soon as your peers saw your cool expression. The class went on. The pain of yesterday had dulled, yet you didn't speak a word to Tsukishima, lest his words opened a wound once again. Your avoidance of him didn't last long, since he had approached you directly at the end of class. "We're studying now," he stated, as if it wasn't the first time you'd heard such plans. His past singing sentence still echoed in your mind, and your jaw clenched. Why? You would be feeling why? You could be feeling each and every single subject, but you still didn't expect the blonde to ever help you out. Even anything that could be remotely considered encouraging was coupled with hurtful adjectives. "We both saw your mark. You need help," he stated, exasperation laced in his tone. "So you're gonna help me," you clarified. As the words left your mouth, the whole idea sounded more ridiculous. "No wonder you did so poorly on your test. You can't even understand having a tutor," Tsukishima remarked. "Fine, let's go." You conceded, no longer wanting to have to face his barrage of attacks on your self-esteem. You followed him to a big table that was big enough for the both of you. He cracked open a textbook along with his notes, the context of which you had gone over so many times yet still failed to comprehend. Looked dreadfully familiar, yet foreign in a vexing way. While you expected a rather useless review, his teaching clicked perfectly in your brain. His concise explanations resonated with you so well that it made you wonder why you had such difficulty with the material in the first place. You steadily understood why you had gotten all those errors on your test, and you knew how to avoid them next time. You began redoing some of your homework independently, yet still under your new tutor's watchful eye. At first, you had fumbled with your answers and were criticized for doing so, but with each question you improved. The amount you were getting correctly greatly outweighed the incorrect ones, and the mistakes you made were much more minor. Joy bubbled within you and took a form of a shape on your lips. When he saw your smile, the middle blocker was shocked. The first year's setter's grin, which Tsukishima wondered if monstrosity could even be classified as that, looked like that of an imp's, was dragged out from the depths of hell. Awkwardly contorting facial muscles was so horrendous that it resulted in a fit of laughter, or visibly cringing from anyone who saw it. It wasn't even a grimace. Tobio's attempt at a smile was beyond that. His lips curved upwards, as if testing how far they could go while forcing his eyes into devilish crescents. So when Tsukishima saw your angelic smile, he was floored. You were focused on the paper as you avidly wrote down your answers, so you didn't notice his eyes widen at how close he was. So you didn't notice his widened eyes and how close he was to being slack-jawed. Your lips turned upward in a graceful manner that displayed your euphoria without squishing your orbs. Your soft grin emitted a serene aura that looked like it belonged in a commercial rather than the sister of someone whose smile was more demonic than the psychopaths in horror movies. A strangled noise escaped his throat as your eyes rose to check on the tutor. Your smile began to fade from your visage as, incontent, dancing around across pools, was dampened by worry. You had heard various things from Tsukishima, mainly scoffs, but this one was new. "Are you okay?" you inquired with concern, even if it didn't appear on your outside. "If you finally get the answer right on the first try, maybe I will be." You shook your head and continued to work on the questions at hand. While the blonde had hurt your feelings, he had solved your problem. This was kind of a new push in your life. Sugared words sounded pleasant to your ears, but they didn't fix anything. Now that you finally understood the subject, and the jumbled concepts were as clear as day. Yet, being friends with Tsukishima was so hard. Falling in love with him was more difficult. Yet, it was like like all things worthwhile in life, he was a challenge, one that you were willing to take. Extended ending. After a successful study session, you headed home. Rather than being greeted with the scent of dinner cooking, your nose was attacked by an acrid smell. Your eyes had widened, and whiffs of the gas escaped from the kitchen. You dropped your belongings and immediately went to the source of the disaster. You had assumed a fire had started in the kitchen, so when you saw your brother, wearing a child's apron and oven mitts, hacking away while holding a pan, you stayed still. Luckily, flames weren't threatening to engulf the house, but smoke had intended to swallow both of you. You covered your mouth with your nose with your forearm and turned on the fan. The whirling blades consumed the awful scent and cleared the kitchen. Unfortunately, the sight didn't look any better. Equipment scattered across the kitchen, and an odd dust covering the table, ingredients strewn over the counter, and some kind of goo had spilled onto the floor. The place was the epitome of a mess. "What are you doing?" you inquired with narrowed eyes. It was quite a rare sight for your brother to attempt to create a dish, and your brain had failed to come up with a reason as to why he'd do so alone. "It doesn't matter," he grumbled and glared. Tobio had set the pan down, and he muttered a rather colorful assortment of words as he scowled at its contents. The onyx-haired boy had took off both of the mitts and threw them on the counter, on one of the only spots where it was clean. When you had peered at the contents of the pan, the gears of your mind moved quickly. "Were you trying to make my favorite dish?" you asked. The ingredients laying haphazardly everywhere were the ones used for the dish. The substance in a pan vaguely reminded you of the shape, but the appearance was kind of similar. You would imagine your favorite food burnt to a crisp. "Yeah," the setter had admitted sheepishly as he stared at the ground. He gritted his teeth as not only had he failed to make the dish, but he had made a gigantic mess that he'd have to clean as well. You exhaled for the second time in that day. A sincere smile had appeared on your face. The whole idea was endearing and cute. You shook your head slightly and started to clean the counters. Hey, your brother stammered, his cheeks flaring. It was almost like you were laughing at him. Regardless, Tobio had put the ingredients back with a bit of a scowl. However, even his expression couldn't be too bitter when you grinned so brightly. I messed that up a lot more than I was hoping. So I'm really sorry for all the mistakes. I'm reading this at like 1 a.m, so my brain just doesn't process words correctly anymore. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. That was a longer one actually. You didn't even end up getting with Tsukishima, which is kind of surprising. I guess it's just you have a crush on him and he was being an ass, but I mean, when is he not an ass? Let's be honest here, guys. But that was cute as hell. Oh, this is a series. Oh, okay, that's why. Oh, this is a series? Oh shit, maybe I have to read this. Whoa. This is a whole series. Okay, that's interesting. Anyways, yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. There's actually other parts in the series. Wow, okay, we have a Nishinoya x Sugawara's sister, which is you guys, obviously the sister is the reader. A Tsundere Kageyama x Hinata's sister, a Iwachan x Oikawa sister, a Kuro x Kenma's sister, and a Bokuto x Akashi's sister. Oh my god, I might have to do this series because I kind of I was gonna say enjoy it and then said dig it at the same time. Oops. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you comment down below some other characters you want me to do, and subscribe and have the notification bell so you can get notified every single time I post a video. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you made it this far, you are the real MVPs. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.